Okay, we are back. Oh my gosh. Thanks so much to you for coming back. I'm going to invite you up to co-host if that's okay with you. Really appreciate it. Okay, Rose is on her way.
Right, we're back.
That's right, we are back. So I just told her that there is a new space, and let's try to get this launched. Hey, Richard is here. Welcome, Richard. Welcome, Lance and Karen. Technical difficulties this evening, but alas, we are back. So let's try this again. All right. G, if you can keep an eye out, and I'll just load up the nest with a few things.
Hi, everyone. We're waiting for our guest. And hi, Lynn, Lance, Greg, Richard. Hi, everyone.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Just waiting for Rose. She's saying that she's hearing us now. So I don't see her in the space. Oh no. I wonder where she is. Let's hope she finds her way here. Okay. It's always fun and games here in the Twitter space, right? Okay, Lynn, I'm just trying to get set up with our guest, so you can come up and there's going to be Q&As after we do our interview. So sorry that we're not inviting people up just yet. Just trying to sort this out. Okay, so there is a new chat, and it looks like, okay, Lance, and it says her account is suspended. Oh, Lynn, thank you for that. How could an account be suspended? Gia, do you know what that's all about?
Sorry, I was actually texting Rose. No, it's not, because I'm DMing with her right now. And she said she's here, but she can't see us. All right, I asked her to log in from her other account, so let's see if that helps.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Okay, must be just a weird Twitter thing tonight. Okay, everybody is hopefully coming back.
Oh, there she is, woman to follow. That's her other account.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's get her up here.
And maybe we can put Rose's actual account in the nest, so people, if they would like to follow Rose, they can follow her on her account, because this is her brand account.
Yes.
Women to follow.
Yes. I'm not going to try to post anything from Rose's account to the nest, because that's how we got into this issue. I was asking Rose, can she post to the nest? And I went and I was just about to post. I was on her page, and I hit the share, and then I think, so I'm not going to post anything from her page.
Yes, let's stay away from the bugs.
Yeah, I think there's something weird. I don't know how, but she got thrown out and weird. But okay, so she's back. I've sent Rose. I've just sent you a invite to speak. so we can get this show on the road. And there she is. Hey, Rose.
Hey, this is a fun one. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for everyone's patience.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's some weird bug. I'm not going to attempt to post whatever you've got on your page to the Nest, because that's where the trouble started. So I'm so sorry. If you can post it, that'd be great. My regular co-hosts are not here. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so it's just me, and Gia has kindly stepped up to help. So
thank you so much, Gia. Appreciate it.
Anything for my ladies.
Yes, she is here and helping. So, okay. So, if it's possible for you to, do you know how to share it up in the Nest? Or actually,
I know how, and I never really am successful at it with everything I do on Twitter. That's the one thing, because I'll try it again. But
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe
I'll send them to Gia maybe and see if she can do it.
Yes, Rose. Please send them to me. Anything you'd like to share in the space today, just share it to me and I'll help with that.
Okay. That sounds perfect. All right. We have a plan, which is awesome for the up for the Nest. Okay. All right. So we might have lost a few bodies, although I see quite a few people that came back. Richard's back. Okay. Lynn's here. Greg's here. Jippity, welcome. Great to see everybody in the space. James, Carmen, Kaloya. And of course, all right, let's get. Oh, okay, great. Rose is back. Okay, great.
Okay, I'm here.
Yay. All right, perfect. Okay. There was something buggy going on, and so glad that you made it back. All right, so everybody, now would be a great time to tweet out the space and share it out with the world. Be perfect timing to do that. All right. Okay, and thanks so much, Lynn, for getting on that. Something weird was going on, but we are all back. And okay, the chat is going. Okay, I have my friend from Australia, Vito, is here. Yeah, if everybody could tweet out the space, now would be a great time to share it and grab anybody else hanging around that might want to join us. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Something Twitter update. Twitter deleted my other account. It says it's telling me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, this is like
something.
Lynn just sent me this that my account is suspended, violating Twitter rules. Oh man. Okay.
I'm so sorry, Rose.
Yeah. Oh wow, you're having some. There's some weird things going on for sure. So sorry about that, and so sorry how we couldn't get you in the space. But thank goodness we launched a new space, and yay, we are up and running. Okay, I have my friend Brandon just joined us. Hey, Brandon, if you can tweet out the space as well, please. That would be really appreciated so we can get everybody loaded up. And we'll be ready to start our space very soon. Okay. All right, let me just check with Rose. Rose, have you had a chance to get everything over to Gia?
No, because I saw the tweet about it, but I've up and the account does not look suspended, so not suspended. So
okay,
this never happened. Okay. All right, I'll try to. Afraid. All right, I'll try to. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Let me.
Okay, I just put a welcome post in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for lighting up the chat again. Oh my gosh. Thank you, everyone. Yep, we are back. Okay. Lance and Karen are in there lighting it up. Okay, Lynn's back in there. We have Vito in the chat and Richard. Awesome. Thank you so much for getting back in the chat and redoing all those tweets before. All right. Let's see. Okay, Rose, just let me know when you are ready. Let me just see.
Okay.
Okay.
I keep trying to send it to Gia, and I don't know if she's getting it, so just let her know that I anyway, in one of your tweets today, I replied to you in three tweets that have something about who I am and writing that I've done that you can share on the Nest.
Oh, no, I can't share because that's what happened. It was around that time where everything went weird.
Okay, well,
yeah, so I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it's not letting okay, I'm trying to send it to Gia and somehow it's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you let me know if you're getting anything from me? But I don't see it. I keep sending it, it doesn't.
Okay.
It's not going
The
through.
other thing that I can probably do is I'll try to go to those tweets and add them to the chat so everybody can see it because there's lots of information there. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, let me just grab this first one. And I'll put that. Okay. First one's there. Okay, and I'll just grab another one. Where is it? Rose, you actually, did you add extra? I'm just thinking, did you add it was like in the comments on one of them?
Yes, I lied to you.
I just added it to the Nest, Indra, the one that she as a comment.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, I think we're close enough to start then. Thanks everybody for your patience. We've had a few technical difficulties tonight, so we are just about to get going. All right. Really appreciate all of your patience, and it's going to be a great interview after all. Okay.
Yay.
All right. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the second official space of the evening. And really appreciate everybody not only coming across to the space but also going back into the chat and adding all your sunny disposition comments back in there. Thank you. That really made me smile in the face of everything that's happening in the space. All right. So welcome to the Positivity Vibe Tribe, everyone. I'm Indra Bartona, a producer in the film and television industry, a TV host, and founder of the Positivity Vibe Tribe. Originally from the Gold Coast, Australia, lived in London for several years, and now based in Los Angeles. So I started my YouTube channel last year with a positive vibe lifestyle theme, and Positivity Vibe Tribe became my personal brand. So Positivity Vibe Tribe Twitter Spaces is the natural evolution to bridge the gap between all social media platforms. And most importantly, bring them to life with full engagement from all of you. So tonight we have an amazing guest, Rose Horowitz, and we're talking about be your own best mentor is the topic. So super excited to get into this topic. A little bit about Rose. Rose is a Pulitzer-nominated journalist and the founder of #WomenToFollow, a global hashtag trend that had a reach of 12 million views in the first 2 weeks. She also creates unique #WomenToFollow programs for organizations and businesses. Since 2021, she has hosted 23 episodes of the live stream for #WomenToFollow show, featuring prominent business leaders, journalists, photographers, and authors. She has been named as host to watch by the Twitter Spaces account. Rose has been published in the New York Times, Forbes, the Los Angeles Times, and many other publications. She has created content for brands such as Citi and Morgan Stanley. So, on that note, official welcome to the Positivity Vibe Tribe space, Rose.
Thank you. It's great. Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for that kind introduction.
Really appreciate you being here. Okay, and I just want to send a warm welcome to some more friends that have just joined the space. Hey, welcome. Whoa, I'm seeing even some of our old guests that we've actually interviewed. Jeremy is in the house. Wow, Jeremy Gin, welcome to you. And also, dear friend, Michael George Bathurst is in the house. So welcome to you guys who have just snuck into the space with all of us here. And the nest up the top is lock and loaded. So let me go through from the right-hand side. The nest is the little dots up the top, and then we can launch into our interview. So the very far right is the show Believe in Yourself from my YouTube channel, and I thought that one might just be appropriate with this amazing topic of be your own mentor. And then next, thank you so much to our sponsors, Wordsmith Pakistan. Thank you for everything that you do, and they have amazing content creation. Their contact information is up in the nest if you want to grab that. And then also join the Positivity Vibe Tribe community. And we are just growing and thriving, and so many beautiful posts in that community. So thank you all for being members. And then, of course, we have our partners at Bunsen & Beaker. Their space is coming up tomorrow night, so that's a post there. And then we have all the goodies with Rose, and I'm going to let Rose go through that as we answer, go through the questions, if it's relevant to the answer, or you can just showcase those up front, Rose. So what would you like to do? Would you like to share what each post is up in the nest, or is it better to just kind of share it as we go through the questions?
Why don't you go through the questions, and then
great. Okay.
I can maybe lead people to the post in the nest.
Okay. Sounds perfect. All right. So, Rose, you are the very first journalist we've had in the Positivity Vibe Tribe. How exciting for us.
Okay, terrific.
I know. So tell us why you chose this profession and how it all started.
Okay. I always loved to write, and I always wrote poems and created my own anthologies of poems. My dad, who is a journalist, was a journalist at covering entertainment at Variety, was always, a supporter, and he used to take my poems and make pictures. He was also an artist and illustrate them. So there was one, "The wind can be lonely and mean," things like that. And then when I was 10, I don't know what, I started the Horowitz family newspaper. So I had want ads from my mother to clean the house and, little features. So I think, I identified at 10, who I wanted to be.
I'm just blown away by that because how many people, when they're 10 years of age, know what they want to be when they grow up? It doesn't happen very often. There are a couple of people that, yes, I can think of at school said, okay, I want to be this or I want to be that. And it happened, but it's very, very rare. Wow.
I know my son said at I think he was 8 or 9 or 10. He wrote in the yearbook that he wanted to be a baker. He loved decorating cakes, but he's ending up being an entrepreneur. He just graduated college, and he majored in entrepreneurship and got the Entrepreneur of the Year or whatever the school's. So the only person I can think of is my husband. Not the only one, but my husband is also a writer, a comedy writer. And so at 7, he's shown me he wrote his first parody of Jack and the Beanstalk.
Wow. I love it.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Um, okay, so from 10 years of age, what was then the main kind of path that you took in order to become a journalist?
I majored in English. I went to one of the CUNY City University of New York schools, Queens College, and my parents had both been to City College, so they thought that would be great, and it was great school. And there were two campus newspapers, and I was a reporter for one of them. And I remember going to a Da Vinci exhibit at the Met and just, a lot of what you do as a journalist is observe. And I remember I guess my English creative writing teacher said, I saw your piece. You really looked at those Da Vinci drawings. So, um, and that, I guess, some example, the person who was the editor at the time was a stringer for the New York Times. And I did love news. I loved poetry. I read, I don't know, I guess I was maybe precocious, but in high school I would go, or before high school, I mean, I would go to the local library and I would see these big tomes like, um, War and Peace or something. And I would just say, oh, that looks interesting. Somehow I knew it was, or Pride and Prejudice. I was reading those, maybe in middle school. So I did love to read and I loved characters and I loved stories. And so in college, though, I majored in English, but I also was taking some international economics classes and political science classes. And I had a professor who was from Ghana. Ofwechi Kajo was tremendous for an international politics class, which I think I took twice or something like that. And I knew he had gone to Columbia's School of International and Public Affairs. And I said, that might be interesting. And I knew then I found out what I needed to get in, what I needed to study to get in, and I knew I needed a language, and I had taken some Spanish in high school, but I took French in college, and I knew I needed to have some, fluency to convert, to be able to converse and so I majored in English, but I was really a humanities major, so I took a lot of philosophy, political science, and I applied to my mother wanted me to be a teacher, but I she said that would be a good career for a woman. But I was interested in journalism, and I applied to the Columbia School of International and Public Affairs, and I got in, and I chose to go there, knowing that they had a major in in media, international media, and I majored in that along with the core, classes, and studied with Fred Friendly, who who was worked with Edward R. Murrow in the early days of TV news. Uh, I had a professor Brzezinski who was the secretary, head of this. Yeah, no, he was Secretary of State or Defense Secretary to the Carter administration. So I really studied with some great people, met some great journalists. They put us, we covered a primary. My first story was for the New York Amsterdam News, and I was a stringer. I covered the New York primary and wrote a story about it. So I hope that's a good intro. There were other then I while I was there, I also did some internships. One of them was at the United Nations, and one of them was at the Associated Press. And I like the one at the Associated Press. We would go out with the New York beat reporter, and like I would go to St. Patrick's and cover something, and we'd both come back, and he would write it up, and I would write it up too, but mine just wasn't going out over the wires. But I got to see what the reporter, the professional did. And then when I was graduating school, I guess I took they had an AP test, a writing test, and I knew I had to write a sports story, which is not really my thing, but learned how to write that as well as, news story, a feature story, and there was some grammar and things like that. And so I got on the list, and in 3 weeks, I didn't know what I do, but 3 weeks before I was graduating, the editor in Pittsburgh called me and said, "Hey, what's up? What are you doing?" So they had a position temporary, like you would replace somebody if they were going on maternity leave or vacation. And I, flew to Pittsburgh to work there, and that was my first job in at the with the Associated Press Bureau.
That's incredible. Wow. And that's where it all kind of started, and from there it just grew, and you just thrived, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I mean, journalism, like I guess many other professions, is sink or swim. I got the my
Right.
my job was I took a train, and my job was to open the bureau at 6 in the morning, and my shift was from 6 to 3, and my job was to go through some of the local papers in Allegheny County. I'd never lived outside New York City, and pick out what stories would be of interest to the noon radio, you know, uh, the radio broadcasters, doing a
Hmm.
noon news, and so you had to. So I hadn't really taken many courses in broadcast journalism, but learned how to write broadcast news, and I did an interview with Dr. Spock, who is famous, wrote the famous baby books. Anyway, and from there I went to Charleston, West Virginia as a vacation relief staffer. Uh, and that was really different to be in Charleston, West Virginia. And then I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll come back to New York City to that. And I started working for a daily business paper that was owned by Knight Ridder at the time. And I started doing investigative I was covering international trade and shipping, and I started doing some investigative stories for the paper, and I really thrived on that and some scoops, and getting scoops.
Wow, that's awesome. It sounded exciting, your very first job where you actually had to travel as well.
Yeah,
So love
yeah.
that. So so also I wanted to also cover off your live stream, because you've been having a lot of success with that. So tell us about your live stream, and what kind of content can we expect? And that's we can find that on your YouTube channel.
Yes, yes, there should be. I think if I don't know if it's I put a link to that in a tweet that Gia could share. But
Yes, they're on the Nest.
oh, okay, terrific. Thank you so much. So yes, I during the pandemic, so I'm basically have been a writer for news and magazines and websites, and also content creation for companies like Citi, Morgan Stanley, American Express. And then when the pandemic hit, I was part of a sort of a social media group run by a former professor at Columbia, and now teaches at Arizona State, Sri Srinivasan. His handle is just SREE. And we were supposed to have an in-person social media weekend, and instead it had to go virtual. And they did that in 10 days. They must have had like 120 speakers that they, made it virtual. This was before everything was virtual, really. And I was participating in that, and he said, I'd love to I'm going to do a live stream show about the pandemic. Is any, looking for volunteers? So I heard, news, and I heard, I admired Sri, one of my mentors, and I said, I'm in. And myself and one other young woman started producing the show. We did 250 daily consecutive shows about all aspects of COVID. And then I also helped launch a show by two women surgeons called that I helped name and conceive, called She's on Call. And then, as the show was winding down, and people said, well, you should have your own show. Because I had written they're found on my Medium account, like 17 profiles of women to follow. Once I started this trend, this hashtag that became a trend and a movement. So I wanted to do it with a producer, because I knew how much, I really wanted to get great guests, and be able to interview without, worrying about the back end. So I have a producer, Stefan Kaplan, whose handle is Spin It Social, and I started doing Women to Follow shows a year ago, July of 21. And it's been terrific. I've had about 30 shows. I've interviewed Kirsten. My first guest was Kirsten Alana, who is a photographer and travel blogger. Um, and the idea, just as my hashtag, is to try to interview women in their leaders in their fields. Uh, so and then also in keeping with my love of news, when Russia invaded Ukraine, I said I got to do a story. There's so much great reporting here, but when I was watching the news on TV, you rarely saw women reporters, correspondents in the field, and I knew they were there, but international news tends to be, and war reporting tends to be more heavily covered by men, and so I began looking for women who were covering what was happening in Ukraine, and I started a Twitter list of women to follow Ukraine. I've already had a big Twitter list of women to follow. And doing that and being on Spaces helped me to find women who I could interview. And one of them had my show with most amount of viewers was 11,000 viewers on the live show on Twitter. And then, it doubled. And that was with a journalist who was in Ukraine, one who was in Italy, and one in New York City. So I did several shows on that, and then I did several shows on abortion rights and reproductive freedom. So I've had about 30 plus guests.
Wow, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we can all find this on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
Awesome.
All the shows are archived there. The whole show is live streamed on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel. But all the shows are there.
Amazing. So we can find you at any of these places. Amazing. All right. Perfect. So today the topic in the space and the Positivity Vibe Tribe is be your best mentor. What was so interesting about this topic to you, and how do you define being your best mentor?
I think often we look to other people to tell us, what we should do. I think Jason, who runs the Bunsen and Beaker account, did something very funny last night on Twitter. Everything he does is always very popular, but this was like a list of do's and don'ts. So it was like, um, always begin a space with a hello, but there were also things like put your head under the toilet, like just crazy things, because we hear so much of what we should do. But when I thought about looking back, I had started the trend in 2018, and about 6 months later, I had written, I don't know, a half a dozen profiles of different women. And this was my own initiative to take my, what had started as a trend and make it something people could hold on to. And, when I started the tweet, it was, let's get this party started. I'm going to name 3 women to follow and ask other people to name them. So I started to write profiles. But what I discovered in doing that was how much of who I am, in addition to loving to write and loving to write poetry, was about being fair and about gender equity. And in cleaning my house, for example, I found this poster that was in red and black, and it was a scale, and I had cut out, it was a collage of women on one side and men on the other side. I was like, wow, where did this come from? And I found an old photograph of myself at editorial meeting at the paper, the Journal of Commerce, that I was part of, and I was bringing in a chairman of huge multinational in the Midwest, and the paper had asked me to, papers sometimes, they do editorial meetings with top political and business and people, and so I did, and there's a picture of me that I guess we had a professional photographer come into, and there's me and the publisher, the editor, the editorial director, the chief correspondent, all men, and me, and I was doing my job. I was taking notes. I had found this gentleman, this chairman as a source, and I could call him sort of, with named, quoted and sometimes not quoted stories with leads. And it just made me reflect on, what we really have to, that we have to look to our own strengths, and that I myself have been a woman to follow, and what that means, and how to keep lifting up other women.
Okay. Um, a lot of information. I don't know if I got everything in the quote, but anyway, I'm trying my best. So much
Okay,
is
well,
going on.
being your own mentor means,
Yeah.
believing in yourself, looking to yourself, looking at your strengths, and listening to yourself.
Okay. Done. um, so, how have you been your best mentor in your life, and is it part of the daily practice that you do? Are there some tips and tricks and things that we could learn from you about, Rose?
I think, I guess, stopping myself when there's a rush of news or a rush of things to do, and saying, okay, I'm just gonna slow down. And sometimes it might be that I go to the beach and I watch the water, and I get inspired and I write a poem, or I bring watercolors with me and I take out my watercolors. And I'm not a professional, but I mean, I, love to paint. My dad had painted, and or do a craft project. When I moved to this house, I said, oh well, everybody around here has wreaths, I'm going to do a wreath. And what other things, and just always being creative. And I did that with my children too, as I was raising them. I think I had, everything that any art store ever sold, and coming up with ideas, um for them to do things. I don't think for me, it's necessarily about sitting still and repeating a mantra, or but it is about taking a walk. I do love to garden. I didn't really, I mean, I we had a garden. My father was loved fruits and vegetables, but I love flowers. And I've learned all about flowers, and the names of flowers and the names of trees, and visited gardens. And so for me, I think that the practice is, slowing down, listening to myself, and finding the things that make me happy and feel, uh, I don't complete, or, fulfilled.
So, what I'm picking up from you is that basically you give yourself self care when you feel like you need it. You do the things that nurture you, and it sounds like nature is one of those things that you really connect with, because you mentioned flowers or the trees or being outside. So many of us really love nature. I go overboard with my plant collection. I have to say that I'm very guilty of this.
Yeah, in the spring, I try to buy cash for some of my plants so it doesn't go on all the regular bills. Yeah. But I do love nature. I do. And I do, really love, and if I'm in, at the beach, sort of my way of taking a mental photograph is to write that poem. Or when and in other light, and with my kids, it was sometimes when they said something's just amazing, I would, write it, jot it down, and then write a poem, or write a form poem, or just to cherish it and remember it.
That's really beautiful. Just the idea that you can write a poem from looking at something beautiful, and also something that maybe your children said to you, and it stays with you forever. That poem, I love that. It's a forever photo.
I do. I have one about a trip to Italy, that when my daughter was, studying there, and in college, about her. She was the world connoisseur, introducing me to wines, and it's called Il Cavatipia, which is a restaurant we're at. But I think that in Italian it means knife, But and now I can look back and say, oh, there she was 20 years old then, or I used to write about the double blessing, I have twins, And in addition to the craziness that was, but to think of it, when I found out I was having twins, I couldn't get off the floor. I couldn't. The doctor said, we don't have an ambulance for you, we don't have a lift for you. Anyway, but the double blessing and taking that in, and the noises they make, or the sounds they make, or the comments people would say, and then you have that treasure. I hope that resonates with some people.
I think absolutely, because twins are a blessing, and it's something unusual. Again, it's not everybody has twins.
Yeah.
It's just like whenever you hear about, oh, there's twins, double trouble,
Yeah.
and all the fun that comes with them. So that's
Yeah.
another
And
blessing.
we had two. I had two more. I had two older ones that were singletons. So then it was like, oh my God, what is this? Twins. What am I going to do with them? And of course, that you go to the beach with them, they'd run in opposite directions. One would run to the water, and the other would stand there crying, sobbing, afraid. So
Wow.
yeah.
So the challenges of, well, it sounds like all of these things just bring you joy. Your family, having times at the beach, and also it sounds like you draw inspiration as well as giving yourself self-care, but from these things, from nature, from the beach, from the garden, all of these things towards also your well, I know that writing is creative, but poetry is, I always think it's just this beautiful description of like emotions, more so than, if we're reading a newspaper or something, or an article. So what you were describing translates perfectly to poetry.
Yeah, I always found, I mean, from the time I was 8, I was writing poems, because to me, writing those things down, and not necessarily saying I'm angry, or but expressing it through what I see in the world around me, in the water, in what people say. Sometimes just, a found poem is, you find something, you're on the airplane and you hear people talking, or you read a story and you just take parts of it. And then also studying poetry, I took many, workshops when I was in New York, lived in New York City. I'm now in Connecticut. It's a little harder to find, but workshops with teachers who had written many books, and we would do prompts and learning. And I had one professor who was a poet, who was always has been a great mentor. I might have put her name in the tweets, Marie Ponceau. And she was my poetry professor in college. I took a few classes with her, and then I stayed in touch. And she lived to be 98. Oh, and she must have taught hundreds of poets in New York City through the West Side, the 92nd Street Y program, NYU, and I would visit her, and I just would be amazed, because she had 7 children. So I thought I had 4. She had 7, and had 29 great grandchildren. But she always would listen to my poems and give me some feedback, and even she would sometimes type, give me her type poems to ask me what I thought. She won a National Book Prize, Poetry Prize in, I mean, she had to be in her 80s, uh, because she had written anyway, she'd written a book when she was very young for with beat poems, the beat poets, and then she had these 7 kids, and she was doing other things, and but always writing. And she always said to me, and always said to everyone, she wouldn't go to bed at night without writing for 10 minutes. So, that we find, and that sort of has been an inspiration for me to always find those 10 minutes.
So I just want to kind of segue a little bit there. But Gia, I want to ask you, do you want to chime in with, did you have any questions, or were you curious about digging into anything that Rose has just shared with us? Because she's covered a lot of ground.
She definitely did. And one of the things I love so much about listening to Rose is how she highlights the things she learned from her mentors along the way. in her journey. And each mentor had a specific purpose and how it shaped her, how it helped her grow and move forward and grow this amazing brand for women to follow. And this is something that we all kind of take for granted, is those little tits and pieces from mentors that we meet along the way, that we kind of forget about a lot of things that we learn from them. So this is one of the things that Rose really made me think about, a lot of the mentors that I met through my journey as well, and what I've learned from them. So thank you so much, Rose. That was really good insight.
Thank you so much, Gia. And I use that in the shows, that I've produced. Um, in doing Woman to Follow, a lot of women started to follow me who were named and who loved what I was doing, as this, became a trend. So when I was doing a show with Sri Srinivasan and we were looking for guests, and it was all about the pandemic, I Maria Ressa, who is the started a news who was a CNN world reporter, but then went back to the Philippines and started her own news site called Rappler. I knew she had she was in trouble with the Philippine government for exposing truth, and I reached out to her as she was in the middle of a court case, an ongoing court case, and she came on the show. So I mean, that is, to me, and what I heard from her talk, or things that I heard then a year later in 2021, she won the Nobel Peace Prize. So what better way to learn than to listen to these to women like that, and then in doing my own when I started my show, or on my tweets, my first guest was I mean on my written profiles was Soraya Shemley, who wrote a book called Rage Becomes Her. And then when I started my show, I reached out to Kirsten Alana, who I followed for years. She said, "Oh no, we've been following each other. You've been following me since 2013." And I also thought that travel was a good, show to do, as we thought we were, heading out of the pandemic in July of 2000, a year ago, before Omicron. So, always tying in my interest with the example of the person and what they do, uh, and the news.
Something that has sort of been intertwining is your examples of your mentors and then how you take inspiration. So I really love that. And also for some people that I know there's some people that have never had mentors, and I think it's a wonderful thing to have a mentor, and I do have mentors and I've had mentors, but I know some people that have to have been their own mentors all their life, and I guess that's another whole skill. But what are some of the benefits of being a little bit self-sufficient as a mentor for yourself, being your own best mentor in life?
I guess looking at at themes, just as you would, like, you study a piece of literature. So when I had started Woman to Follow, like, which was grew, not like I sat down and said, oh, what is a hashtag that I can find that will trend, and get these millions of views. But it came from within, and then once I did that, it's being your own best mentor. It's saying, okay, what are my strengths? Okay, well, my strengths are conceptual, strategy, synthesizing things. Uh, so when I had the opportunity to work on a live stream and learn what that was about, but I brought the same skills, and it was knowing that my strength was in let's say choosing topics, finding guests, booking them, learning how to tweet out so that, that I would get their attention if I needed to. And just, and always being, I guess I'm very conscious of being, your name is everything, and everything, that you don't do anything that you might regret, and you don't put anything out on social media that, you might want to take down, for a reason other than, spelling, so being conscious of being, true to who you think you are, and being a role model, just like, as when you're a mother, you're teaching your children, and when I was a student, I was learning from everyone, and as a journalist, I'm learning from everything I see around me, and the people that I want to follow and the people I want to know. So I hope that helps to answer your question, Indra.
I think that was a wonderful answer. And I think that's just so real, that being conscious of being true to who you are and being your own role model sometimes. You just have to be.
I think so, because I think that, if you listen to many spaces, it's all like, how do you do this? How do you do that? But, look at yourself, see what you do, and you might find those great strengths within yourself and what you've done in your life, and both in your personal life and your professional life.
And I want to also start to invite some people up if they'd like to ask some questions to you or talk about this topic of being your own mentor and sharing your own experience up here. So either. Rose is a amazing guest here, and you've been sharing so many gems with us. So yeah, do request if you guys would like to come up. Now would be a great time to ask Rose some questions or share your journey on being your own best mentor. I do have some more questions for you, Rose, but I just wanted to see if anybody
Okay.
is,
Of course.
wants to come forward. Who've been some of your favorite mentors and why? Okay, we have quite a few people. Whoa, they all requested at once. But maybe you can answer this. Who've been some of your favorite mentors while we welcome up our
Okay.
guests?
Well, I mentioned this poet, but also, Madeline Sklar, since I've started on Twitter, really, she's very true to who she is and smart and, generous in lifting up other people. So she's one. Soraya Shemley, who I mentioned, I can share that later after the show. I'll mention some of, who wrote this book, Rage Becomes Her. Um, Gina Glantz, who's the founder of Gender Avenger, which sort of I'd heard about, and then I saw that they posted a story, and that got me started on this hashtag Woman to Follow. And who else? Some of the people in this room, Jennifer Navarrete, learning lots of things from Gia, and a lot of the women that I name, I don't name anyone without checking them out. So, if you find, I can share a link later to this whole Woman to Follow Twitter list, which has 1,800 names. I also have a Woman to Follow Ukraine list, and I started a Woman to Follow abortion list. So those are some names.
It's amazing. Okay, so let's welcome up our first guest, Carol King. You have your hand up, so let's go over to you. Welcome to the Positivity Vibe Tribe.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm just really bowled over by the breadth and the variety and the richness of your life, Rose, between your career and your creative side, the writer, the poet, and also your family. And I just, first of all, just want to say that I'm just really amazed at how you've been able to put this life together. And you're really a role model, I think, for young women today. And it's wonderful that you're doing what you're doing. There's an opportunity to reach a lot of lives. As a journalist, I always love to hear more about people's journalism career stories, like how I'm interested in that breakthrough moment when you mentioned that you went from being somebody who was sort of, doing the everyday kinds of stories, and then you began to get involved in investigative journalism and scoops, you said. And I was just wondering if you'd share with us one breakthrough story that you felt really opened up your career at that moment. And then I'm also going to ask you how you made a bridge out of that kind of investigative journalism, or the kind of journalism that was really taking over, really taking over your, um, taking all of your capabilities on a daily basis to get a story out. And what was it that brought you to make another transition, and why?
Okay, that's a big question. Thank you so much for your kind words, Carol. Uh, I guess I mean, being a reporter, you always want to, get scoop. I mean, for me, um, and I mean now it's more maybe I'm finding the personality, but I guess one of the first scoops I had was I was covering Soviet trade, and this was back in the day with Gorbachev, and I heard that there were some businessmen that were trying to buy the U.S. embassy they found to be bugged. And I confirmed it with a few people. I had good sources because, I was covering this beat of international trade, and in particular looking at perestroika, what that meant, and glasnost, and meeting lots of people at various conferences when we were all live going in person. And I got this scoop, and the next day it came out, and Thomas Friedman, who's at the New York Times, apparently in the State Department briefing, said, I heard Rose Hurwitz of the Journal of Commerce had this scoop. So I mean that's very cool. I just saw in the news that Captain Hazelwood, who was the captain, of the Exxon Valdez, uh, died. But back when that happened, I was the first to report that he had a drunken driving record. And that was because I had great sources, in the maritime business industry, and was able to get that scoop. Uh, and then that led me, an editor at the paper who had been at the Philadelphia Inquirer and won part of some Pulitzer teams. Uh, the way I got started I'd started already, but we got an envelope through the mail, through the not through the mail, but under the door, that had no name attached, or just blank, and it was somebody accusing other shipping middlemen of hogging the bids for U.S. Food for Peace cargo that was going to feed the hungry in Sudan. And he said, hey, check this out. And I did. And with his, help, they put me on a 3-month assignment to cover this. And that was the story that the newspaper nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. And I also received from World Hunger Year a investigative journalism, and from the Associated Press. So, what was really important, and the reason to do investigative reporting, is that it made a change. When I did that series of stories, the U.S. Senate, the Foreign Relations Committee under Senator Patrick Leahy and Senator Lugar, said, wait, what's this happening? This is not fair. And they held hearings, and it had been a closed bidding process. They held these hearings, they, investigated, and what happened is they became open bidding. They changed the law. So they changed the law, and that was, that's a great feeling as a journalist when you can affect change.
Amazing. Three amazing stories. And that first one, about the Soviet embassy. So what was the deal with the bugging?
It was bugged. They found out it was bugged. They were going to close the agency. So these group of U.S. businessmen who were interested in uh, doing business with Russia at the time, when things had been so closed. I mean, this is Trump also was looking at doing business in the Soviet Union. They said, hey, well, this is a great opportunity. We can buy the U.S. embassy, and we can start a U.S., Soviet business council from this the bugged
And
agency.
was this New York or Washington?
Uh, well, the embassy was in Moscow.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I
wow.
was based in New York City. The state, where it was brought up in a press briefing with Thomas Friedman, he was in D.C.
Amazing. That's a great. Now I want the other half of my question, if you remember it.
Yes. Okay. Transition. I always, stayed writing stories. I did a feature on, not a feature, a sort of investigative story for Forbes about how we were entering the U.S. I mean, the Persian Gulf War. and had ancient merchant marine. We had an ancient merchant marine, which was not going to bode too well at the time, for our getting supplies. Uh, so I did still do investigative reporting, I guess, but once I had like two kids and then four, it became a little more difficult to do stories on that level. So I continued to write for like content for American Express and things, but I got a little off track in terms of doing the investigative journalism. And then I guess around 2008, when the economic crisis hit in the States and in the world, journalism just turned upside down. I mean, anyone, sort of papers were closing, and one of the magazines I wrote for, shut down. So some of my contacts were no longer writing, or they'd gone into business, or Wall Street. So I had to find new outlets, and somebody said, a journalist friend from Columbia said, "Hey, you should, if you want to be, you should check out this guy Sri Srinivasan. He does these great social media weekends." And around that time, I got onto Twitter, and I started learning and meeting other people in the field, and discovered, Twitter. And then when the pandemic hit, I took, everything again was different, and I adapted with that. So I think that I pivoted, in a lot of turns in my career.
Thanks so much for your question, Caroline, for both of them. They were really great questions. Okay, so let's go to, I think Brendan was next. Welcome, Brendan, to the Positive Vibe Tribe. Do you have a question for Rose?
Hi, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I do. Hi, Rose.
Hi, Brendan.
I wanted to ask you a bit about I was really moved when I read your A Visit on Sunday poem, and I wanted to ask you a bit about your relationship with your father, and I think there's some lines in there about displaying your poetry and painting, and also there was a line about memories lost by a large degree, I think, or
Hmm.
um, and I wanted to ask about, did he have any condition or thing during sort of the later stage of his life, or just a bit about your relationship, really?
Yeah, I read that poem I guess I had read it in a space with Block Muse, and I was in a space with Lovely Lines and Block Muse, and Block Muse said, "Oh, she has to, can you please read that poem, A Visit on Sunday," which is about visiting my father when he was in a uh, independent living, but he really entered independently. But then he did have knew he had mild cognitive impairment from the time he was 80. But he still was taking classes. I mean, he was amazing. He took art classes, he took philosophy classes. He started a whole music program at the for seniors at Queens College. And he was always an inspiration. I think he was a reporter, he was an artist. Um, and he was always wanted to know, if he asked me what book I was reading, he would go and read the book. you know. Uh, and uh, and when my mother died, he wanted to start again, and he went into this independent living. It was he didn't want to live alone, and he went to. I found him a place near me, and gradually, I guess after he turned 90, um, his memory declined, and so when I say memory, by a large degree, but yet he still retained his. So he had Alzheimer's, towards the end, but I mean, he lived from 80 to 90. Or he died 2 weeks short of 93. So yeah, it's a great lifespan. And my mother had preceded him in death, and she was younger. So I was very also appreciative that my children, who were young, uh got to be know him. My youngest, when they were he died when they were 12, and my older ones were in high school. So I guess it's a tribute to him, and that he maintained, he still, tried to paint. His paintings filled the room in the senior living home, and people, his spirit was there. He'd see me, he said, "Rose, how are you? You're looking younger every day." And people, just loved, he just was a gregarious man, and even though he couldn't remember what day it was, or we needed to get him help so that he didn't fall, or wander. He still maintained this, love of life. And I tried to express that in the poem.
That's great. I wonder, I don't know if you have any, but I think in the poem you talked about your childhood poems. Would you be able to read one to us? If you do have one, but
A
just wondered.
childhood poem. I think there's one in the tweet I shared that says, "Be your own best mentor," and within that blog post, there's a poem that's framed that I have in there. That's a poem I wrote as a child that he illustrated. I think it may be the one about the wind being nasty and mean. So uh, I can share it after, but it's in there.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Brendan, for the wonderful questions. And again, that was, as you were describing your dad, I think we all got a beautiful visual of his room, of his creativity, of just the joy that he had. How wonderful. Okay, we're all curious about this poem now.
I can share. I don't think it's published in a poetry journal. I can take a screenshot of the poem and share it, or I also read it aloud for a World
Oh,
Poetry Day
okay.
during the pandemic, so I can share that.
Okay, well, actually, it might be nice if you read it out aloud because that just sounds so beautiful.
I could. Oh, let's see. I do have it. Hold on a second.
I pinned it to the nest, Rose, for you right
Oh,
there.
okay. All right, great. So you have the illustration that for my father, the poem that I wrote as a child.
Okay, so I have the one that says, "Here is the poem, a visit on Sunday," in print. Is that the
Oh,
one?
okay. Yes, yes. I'm just trying to find the print in among my poetry journals that I've been published in. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, that's the printed one. That's the one I have.
Oh, here. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. The poem is in the form, just as a way of explanation. It's not too long, but it's a pantoum, which has a certain scheme with repetition and rhyme. In memoriam, a visit on Sunday. When I arrive, he holds my hand and knows me. He always said, "Ho, ho, ho, let us go." Spirit intact, but memory gone by large degree. "You look beautiful," he declares with glee. I smile, bend to kiss him, happy to bow. When I arrive, he holds my hand and knows me. He used to paint alongside my poetry. My child poems were framed our little show. Spirit intact, but memory gone by large degree. Exuberant, he painted with great esprit. Full with his paintings, this senior room is aglow. When I arrive, he holds my hand, knows me. Now my father might say 3 words, then he stops. What he wants to say, he doesn't know how. Spirit intact, memory gone by large degree. In the war, he used Morse code to key messages. He became a writer, a pro. When I arrive, he holds my hand and knows me. Spirit intact, but his memory gone by large degree.
So beautiful. If everybody has an emoji available, and if they can, please put up some emojis because that was just so beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. I never expected to read that, so thank you.
Well, we never know how things are going to go in Positivity Vibe Tribe, and we have these amazing people in here who just always bring so much light and love. So Thank you. So far, the questions are just so beautiful. And wow, that was just an amazing, amazing poem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think you touched everybody in the room. So thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Wow.
I just want to say, sorry, Indra. I just want to say your poem and the way you speak about him, it's like, it makes me feel like I've known him too for a very long time. And the way you speak about his spirit, his paintings, and how he looks at you and how he talks to you. These are things that the way you describe them, not anyone can do. Not many people can do that. Is that you make us feel like we've known him for a very long time. Thank you so much, Rose, for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's hard to, when you lose somebody, everyone in this space has lost someone. It's very hard to write, I think, about them in a deep way, or in a way that, is not sentimental, but shows them, as you said, what I tried to do was to show who he is, and also, in a way, hint at, his memory loss, but that he was still there. He was still the person he was. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Gia, for that lovely touch. Okay, so we have our next speaker, digital humanitarian, Philip. Welcome to the Positivity Vibe Tribe.
Good morning, Indra. It's what time? It's 4 in the morning. I just woke up, and it's always refreshing to see this. This looks like a school reunion where I see familiar faces, and most of you may not know it. Last year, when I was in spaces with most of you, I was going through a very dark time. For the first time in my life, I got diagnosed with dyslexia, ADHD, PTSD, and a myriad of other diseases which I don't even understand, And I took time to go to America just to heal, process, and accept my diagnosis. So I came back to Kenya knowing fully about my condition, thanks to the spaces which I used to attend with all of you. Good to see you, Gia. Good to see you, Indra. Good to see you, Rose. And Rose, when I go through your poems, I think of my father. When you talk about your father holding your hand, my father never held my hand. My father never hugged me. And the only time I held his hand is when he was dying in my hand. So that poem is deep. It when it's talking about Morse code, how your dad used to use Morse code. I mean, my dad communicates with me through Morse code, and as in, he's been there, though he's gone, but I can still feel his presence. I can still feel his spirit, And one of my mentors, be your own mentor. I'm someone who I grew up as a child knowing I'm different, but the people around me thought I was stupid. From my own family, my own parents. At school, teachers labeled me a slow learner. Teachers labeled me stupid, But I was my own mentor. I was like, I can do this. I can. And when everybody else dismissed me, I went against the grain and became one of the most sought after digital content creator in my country. I've worked for the UN, I think nearly 12 UN organizations where I advised them on different capacities as the head of digital. I've advised Kenya government ministries from different capacities, parastatals, NGOs. I've reshaped the whole ecosystem around emergency response in my country because I believed in myself. So I just want to tell guys there that parents play a big role in a child's life. I had parents, yes. My mother, my father were present, with presence, but I never felt their presence, So I decided to break that generational trauma by being present in my child's life, being present in my son's life, being present in my kid's life, where I hug them, I affirm them, I validate them. I'm always there present because I'm learning from my father's mistakes. I'm not my father, And living in an African community that is very judgmental, living in an African community that always labels persons in the neurodiverse spectrum. My family suffers from dyslexia. My mother is literate. I have brothers who are grappling with addiction, alcohol, depression, divorce. But we have a society that labels us, that family is a family of witches. We are being labeled witches because our condition makes us see things, our condition makes us predict things, our condition makes us be different. And I'm the only one who is lucky to get to see my family. Going through that disorders, and through Twitter Spaces. And I really want to thank each one of you. I think I've heard each one of you speak, or even got in touch with you guys. You guys gave me hope. You guys gave me the will to actually fight on. You guys gave me the spirit to just step up and have a spring in my step. Because in Kenya, in East Africa, in Africa, mental health is a taboo. Mental health is spoken to in hushed tones. People don't want to speak. People only speak about it from a death perspective. People only speak about it from a trauma perspective. We never get to hear it from a poetry angle. You never get to hear it from a storytelling, from writers. From people just being vulnerable. And for me, vulnerability is a strength I learned on Twitter Spaces. Vulnerability is a strength I learned from each and every time I came to Spaces, and that's what gave me strength. And I just want to tell you guys that for the first time in my life, I'm at peace. I'm at peace because I'm just. People look at me as a disabled person, but I'm not. I'm not disabled. I just have different ability, and that's something which I came to accept. And thanks to these rooms, these spaces, because you guys may not know it, but you guys really give us validation. Because getting people who are vulnerable in Africa is very hard. Getting lived experiences of people just opening up about their struggles is very hard. We don't get it, And I just want to tell you, Rose, you may not know it, but you inspire most of us. By you talking about your father, you're talking about my father, and you're giving me strength to also start writing about him. And I'm someone who cannot write, and I want to use technology to start using audio to text kind of tools to actually just write about my father. And I just want to tell you guys that you guys may not know it. I'm actually writing a book. I'm writing my book about my Twitter experience, how Twitter saved my life, And as Africans, the biggest mistake we make as Africans, we don't tell our stories. We've been wired to suck it up. We've been wired to second guess ourselves. We've been wired to just not speak out, because men who speak out in Africa are considered weak. And I want to change that. I want to change that and just be that voice of many. And I want to speak for the dyslexics. I want to speak for people with ADHD, that there are so many people like you around the world who, like, the positivity tribe is my tribe, As in, I may not be, you may not be related to me by blood, but you're my family. You're my spiritual family. I got to discover spirituality through Twitter Spaces, I got to discover myself through Twitter Spaces, where you get to hear stories of people's struggles and how they actually overcame trauma. And to me, that's how I am my own mentor, where I just want to inspire people through my story. And I want to really thank Indra for always keeping this positivity space. You never know how you inspire people like us. Thanks.
I'll let Indra speak.
Well, I was going to let you respond first, Rose, and then because you're the guest, go ahead, please.
That was so moving. I don't cry often, but I my heart was full as you spoke. And just this is another aspect of my life, but among my 4 kids, 3 of them had various learning disabilities. And I learned about each of them. And like when the third one, the diagnosis came in and it was ADHD, I said, I don't know that one. Like none of them had that. And with each one I did, a lot of research and became their advocate, and we were in a great school system, but still there was so much work, and still, one of them is still finding his way, and totally different. His twin brother was amazing at school, and he was not, but he discovered he loved to sing, and there was no place he'd rather be than on the stage. And my kids don't really, they're not on Twitter Spaces, they're on Twitter, some of them, but I don't know. Let's see, is anyone here? No, I don't see any. So I have found great community and a way to explore aspects of my life that even with my closest friends I don't necessarily talk about. And this is, and just just want to add to that, but one of my great mentors who was an inspiration for me to become a journalist and go into the School of International Affairs and Public Affairs at Columbia was this professor from Ghana. And maybe, I don't know, but he did, I mean, I didn't know much about his family. I knew he had a family, but he was inspiring. And so, I guess it's hard to make blanket statements, but I'm so glad that you've found inspiration through Positivity Vibe Tribe and in many spaces. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rose. And Philip, your voice did sound so familiar. As soon as you started to speak, I didn't recognize your profile. But as soon as you started to speak, I remembered you absolutely. So it is wonderful to have you back in Twitter Spaces. Warm, warm welcome back to the Positivity Vibe Tribe. We'll look forward to seeing you here on many, many occasions. And just thank you so much for sharing what you've been going through, and what an inspiring story that you've shared as well in the space. Very empowering to hear this kind of story. And, we didn't know where you went, but we're so happy to see you back. So thank you so much for dropping in. Okay, so we have our last speaker. Do you mind taking one more question or speaker, Rose?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, warm welcome, Will, to the Positivity Vibe Tribe. And the topic is Be Your Own Mentor. Did you have a question for our guest, Rose, tonight?
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I actually wanted to say something to Digital. I also have dyslexia, depression, anxiety, and I was also told as a child that I was stupid. I was a slow learner. I was put in learning disability classes, and it ended up getting me to be a software engineer, working in aerospace, working with chemical companies, governments, and but it had a bad effect on me too. So I was just curious, do you find that the resentment from that, the lack of understanding that you were different and you needed something different, do you find that that is creeping up on you now and causing you any anxiety?
Absolutely. But it took me 2 years to process and accept. I used to hate myself, and I've suffered so many multiple suicidal ideations, as recent as February this year. And I think Gia, we were working with Gia and Samantha on something, and I had to bump off because I was suicidal. I was suicidal because everybody around me used to dismiss me. As in, I will see something and I will raise it and I will be dismissed. And when you find a society that labels you disabled, when you find a society that frowns upon people like me, it's crippling. It is crippling, and it's worse when it comes from family. It's worse when your own siblings, when your own parents actually label you stupid. It hurts, and it hurts when a society, the education system, the government system, the employment system, big advantage of people like us. So it did affect me, but I've come to accept that nobody will see what I see. I've come to accept that I'm just wired differently. What I see is not what the world will see. So that's something which I'm at peace with myself right now, and I look back at the kind of innovations I've come up with, the kind of solutions I've come up with in my country. It's amazing. And I recently challenged the mental health practitioners in the country and asked them, when I got diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD and all these mental health, disorders, you guys gave me an example of case studies from America, from UK, from the world, that dyslexics are people like Albert Einstein, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Rockefeller. I was like, where are the African dyslexics? And what's the innovation? What's their gift? Everybody couldn't answer me, and that's now where I came to understand. Even my own country don't understand these conditions. That's why if I keep quiet, I'm part of the problem. So I have come to accept that people will not accept me, and I, and that's something which I've come now to be at peace at, where I'm at peace with myself and I forgive myself. I used to hate myself a lot because um, um, nobody used to believe me as much as I. And you know what is really hurting is I have a brain that can process 6 things at the same time. I have a brain that can crunch data on the go. When I look at you, I meet you, I read your emotions, I see your past, I see your present, I see your future, and I can predict things. And the things I predicted have all happened. So I've reached a point where now I don't know. I only care about me because I forgive myself. I used to hate myself so much. So for the sake of my kids, I'm forgiving myself, and I've accepted that nobody will see me the way I am. It's just that I need to find a community that believes in me, and a community that allows themselves to be vulnerable. And for me, one biggest strength, and but thanks for actually sharing your being dyslexic. One of the biggest strengths I get is when I hear lived experiences of people like me. I don't get it in my country. So for me, I've forgiven myself, and I've come to accept that people will always speak, and it's worse when it comes from a community that is very judgmental, a community that labels people, a community that thrives on taking advantage of the people with disabilities. Can you imagine? I advised a presidential candidate with my disability. I've advised UN, as in top representatives. I have become part of this country's disaster response ecosystem, and I have so much energy where I can work nonstop for even a week. But I've reached a point where now I have to speak. I have to say, "Hey guys, look, this is a condition just like any other, but it doesn't define me. Dyslexia doesn't define me. It's me. It's my superpower." So I've come to accept, and that's my healing. That's my peace. So whatever people say right now going forward doesn't bother me. So for me, I've healed, and I've come to accept that I'm just different.
Thank you very
If I can, yeah, if I can just something quickly, but I think that there's a theme here, and the theme, very moving words, Philip. Thank you for sharing. Is being your own mentor. So you had this strength within you to look beyond the people who were telling you you were stupid, and I guess for my kids, I hope, they did hate me because I was the parent who was, it's like my daughter said, they have a sign, when my younger kids were going to school, we hate Rose Horowitz. And it was because I always advocated, for them and they had things like dyslexia and ADHD and anxiety and slow learning, process. And each time I learned about it, and I tried to, I did and I joined groups to learn about this, and I ran a Twitter feed for a group called Smart Kids with LD. Everyone here should check it out. Uh, but you do have to, but that's part of being your own, and you had the courage and the fortitude. It took you a while, a long time, but to recognize that strength. And so many of I did a poem for a children's collection about Steven Spielberg and his growing up, and he didn't find. And when I wrote this poem, it wasn't he didn't come out with a diagnosis, but he had dyslexia, and the poem was about how his family gave him a camera when he was 10 or 11, and he started making movies, and then he started, interviewing his family, and he'd have these nights, and he charged 25 cents, and people would come and see his movies. But he was a terrible student. He was, and he couldn't get into a good university. I mean, the best university. And so he began, he became, I think it was maybe uh, one of the big studios. And he just hung around and went into an office and started working until they finally said, "Hey, you don't work here." But he said, "Well, I have this movie I want to show you." And that was his start. So, there are so many geniuses that do have dyslexia and do have ADHD and do have anxiety and depression. And, it's amazing what they can do. And my 4 kids, I never made them like other families. If they're twins, they all had to swim, but one was a swimmer and one was a star of the school, of every play, and learned all aspects of producing. And as so you really have to treasure, I think, that difference and recognize it, and be your own I'm saying be your own mentor, but be your own hero, be your own advocate. So thank you for sharing, Philip, and best reach out if I can help you.
Wow, that was a really nice summary to those points, Rose. I really couldn't, I'd be struggling to add anything. You really, there's a mic drop. Gia.
Oh, no. Well, one of my things I try to do, although I think I've rambled a lot in this conversation, but is try to synthesize. And as I was listening to him, I was thinking of how this, you know, how maybe my story, and his story has something in common.
I actually see that a lot because of the fact of, a lot of the time, even when, well, I mean, I was sitting here and listening to give amazing examples of some of your professors and early beginnings and all those kind of process things where you were finding your way, and at the same time there was a lot of inspiration coming from yourself, that you were taking certain steps and action, and you were being your own mentor or your own hero. And the funniest thing was I actually named this space Be Your Own Hero at
I
first.
saw that. And I said, oh,
Right?
well, okay. And I wasn't going to say anything to you because I said, oh, okay, well, I never thought of myself as my own hero, but okay.
Well,
So,
it's sort of close. If you're being your own mentor, your own
yes.
hero. I mean, because the way you also laid out all the steps, and if there's a couple of people that also just joined us recently, welcome to the space. And we've been having this amazing discussion with Rose all about, her journey, as a journalist, and just entwining that with how she's had wonderful mentors, but also that she has been her own best mentor at the same time. So it's almost a balance. And I almost feel like we ultimately, we are the ones that have to be responsible and accountable for our own path. So we do have to be our own best mentors and our own best heroes, really, at the end of the day.
And isn't that part of, growing up? I mean, when your children start to walk, right? They walk away from you and right? I mean, that's the first thing they do, right? As they walk, and you have to say, okay, that's what it should be, even though, when they leave you for college, you're like, oh, oh my God, they're leaving, but you want them to go forward because, I have had, you know, times with my kids' lives where they didn't go that step, and they're still finding that, their strength, and have to, walk into that and be that person that they want to be. You can guide them, but you have to embrace it.
Absolutely. Yes, we ultimately have to be our own best mentors and our own best heroes, because also we're the only ones that really know and experience our personal journey. And and there were so many touching things that were shared in this space tonight. With your story, Rose, really appreciate you sharing, so much detail and being vulnerable. And I think and one of the highlights was truly the read of the poetry. Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for going with the flow when we just kind of put you on the
No, and I just
on the
wanted to
spot.
say something, when I meet like Indra and I, we've been in Twitter circles and experts and conversationalists, we're part of that together. But I hadn't spoken to Indra, but when we spoke, I guess one of the things I said, oh, I see you were a model, you're an actress. Did you start when you were, young? And she told me that her mother had been, I think, a cooking host, or some kind of TV personality, and had you come on the stage and be part of that, and then you were a child model. And so I always like to know how that person got to be. And it's not always like in my case that I wanted to be a writer, and in Indra's case, I don't know what she wanted to be when she was 10, but it's very telling, and I just want to share that, I appreciated your opening up to me, Indra, about, how you became who you are.
Absolutely. And for anybody in the space that's actually ever had a conversation with anybody that's a journalist, the tables always seem to turn, and I had to keep flipping them back in the conversation. And I was like, hang on a minute, she's got me talking about me now and my early roots and my journey. And so beware of these talented journalists that just with a flip of a moment that the tables are turned. So yeah, really enjoyed our conversations and also our journey here on Twitter Spaces.
Yes.
Many of us have been here for quite a while, and we've been enjoying all these different activities and the things that we've been creating together. And I'm seeing many faces here. Hello to everybody here who's also joined us just recently. And Rose, I have to say, thank you so much. I think we could just have an all-nighter Twitter space with you.
Next time we want to do that, we know who to call, right?
That's right, because there's so many things that are uncovered. Gia, would you like to have some last words? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Indra. And thank you so much, Rose, today for showing us that we are our own mentors. Often, a lot of young people will always look into finding a mentor, and we kind of quiet the voice inside of us, that wisdom, that little voice that tries to show you the way, that tries to help you to persevere, to be resilient in whatever that you're facing. But today you truly showed us, and with Philip's amazing insight as well, is that we are our own mentors. We just have to learn to listen to ourselves in a better way. Today, I learned that even through hardship, even through a lot of difficult situations, traumatizing situations, we kind of dwell into the negativity of the situation. But that situation happened for a reason, is to shape the person you are today. Yes, it did happen. It was unfortunate. It was difficult. It was hard. It was traumatizing, but that helped you grow to face harder difficulties and that are coming your way as well. So for me personally, when I'm faced with trauma and hard situations, I always write it down. What did I learn from this? What is something that helped me be stronger today? What this situation, yes, it's bad, but I learned not to quiet it. I learned not to shut it down. I learned how to take the little parts that make me stronger and add it to my arsenal, is to help me move forward and be stronger and be better and to be able to help others as well. And today, Rose, you really showed us that we are our own best mentors. You don't need to look anywhere else. Just look within yourself and grow and prosper and just keep moving forward. And thank you so much, Rose. You have an amazing journey, an inspiring journey. And I definitely look up to you. Make sure you follow Rose, everyone.
Thank you so much, Gia. Thank you for stepping in to co-host and putting so many of the things up in the nest. Really appreciate that. I want to give a shout out to just some of the other people that I know in this room, like Jennifer Navarrete, who I've learned so much from, and is an example of going after, of trying new things, and she goes after it. It's great. Stefan Caggiano, who's here, who's one of your co-hosts, just has been so supportive, and through dips and turns and things that we've shared, he really has been just a great supporter. I appreciate that. Carol, I'm getting to know. We've known each other a little bit through the journalism circles. Phil, really so inspiring to hear your story. And for everyone who listened, I know this is a long space, and I may have told many stories, but I really appreciate your listening, and it is really I don't know. It just never, it started with hard to get into the space. Never had that. Then I saw it said my account was suspended. Somebody said my account was suspended. So, this is resilience, right? We're living resilience in this space. And thank you so much, Indra and Stefan and Gia, Jennifer, Jason. I see you're here, and everybody who I think I was already following you, Philip. I saw when I looked at your uh, headshot. So thank you so much. And I do hope people follow me, subscribe to me. I'm a little bit, my show is, I guess, called like a hidden gem. So I would really love it, people to follow me on my Twitter account and subscribe to my channel. There's lots of good people to learn from, and I continue, and I hope people will learn from me. So thank you so much, Indra, and everyone.
Thank you so much, Rose. Everybody, as we start to wind down the space, there are a lot of goodies up in the space. And also, the first thing up in the space is Rose's beautiful, beautiful poem. So do check that out. I'm going to head over to the right side, and so I finish with Rose's pieces. There is the show on the far right. We're starting the far right of the nest, Believe in Yourself, on my YouTube channel. And I thought that would be appropriate, but it really became very appropriate the more that we got into this space. With Rose's journey, with our speaker's journey, and everything that happened. Believe in yourself, no matter what. Even if the space starts off and it's crashing and your guests can't even get into the space, just start another one and just believe that it's all going to work out. Absolutely. And it did beautifully. It came together beautifully, incredibly. So thank you all for hanging out. And then also up in the nest, thank you so much to our sponsors, Wordsmith Pakistan, for sponsoring this show. Also, if you're not a member of the Positivity Vibe Tribe community, there is a link up there to join this thriving, amazing community that is so supportive and loving. I can't think of any other words. They're just incredible. And then there is our partners, Bunsen and Beaker. They have an amazing space tomorrow night. So their space is up in the nest. So do check them out. And they are truly a blessing. And it is so much fun, whether it's a science chat tomorrow night or on Saturday night, pet chat. Absolutely love it. Okay, and then we get into some of Rose's amazing posts up in the nest. And absolutely do check these out. You can even have access to this in the replay. So she's got an interview there as a second piece, and then there's also at the very beginning there's that beautiful poem, and then she's got many other pieces. Gia's also posted something. Whoops, it's stuck. All right, that's okay. And then she's also got all those beautiful posts. So they were on our original posts when we promoted the space, but you can grab them even after this space if you go back and listen to the replay. It's been an amazing space. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for being in the space tonight. It truly is a pleasure, and I'm so full of gratitude. Thank you so much to Gia, my lovely co-host, who stepped in at the last minute. And thank you for Stephen for hanging out, even though not sure what the technical difficulties are, but we're having all sorts tonight. So appreciate you hanging in there. Thank you to our wonderful guest, Rose, for all that you shared in the space. I mean, it just didn't even feel like, I don't know where the time went. I have no idea. Like I said, I think we could do a marathon chatting to you, because it just feels like we're chatting with a friend who's sharing and teaching us so many things. There's been so many lessons learned in this space. I don't even know where to start, but I'm definitely going to go back and enjoy the replay myself. Thank you so much. You're an inspiration to many of us, and truly a blessing to have you, Rose, in the Positivity Vibe Tribe space. Thank you to the speakers that came up and shared. Really appreciate you sharing in the space, and also so many wonderful questions. Wow, incredible questions as well. That just opened up the floor and led to even a poetry reading. So just love that so much. Can't thank you enough. And also special thanks to our partners, Bunsen and Beaker, for always supporting. And yes, do follow them as well. Make sure, everybody, you are following Rose, by the way, because she has amazing content. And do subscribe to her YouTube channel. And one of the posts are up in the link, up in the nest, that you can get the link to her YouTube channel and find out more about her live stream shows, which are amazing. All right, everybody, it has been an incredible evening, and who would have known that things can just turn around and be so amazing after quite a rocky start. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Right?
much, everyone. Thank you, Indra, for keeping with it. I think, we were ending late, but we did start late.
We absolutely,
Yes.
we did have a late start. So everyone, we will be back in the Positivity Vibe Tribe on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's a day space. So look forward to seeing you all there. And until next time, sending you all love, light, and blessings.